In the frozen trenches of World War I's Western Front, where the mud clung like a shroud and the air reeked of cordite and despair, a miracle unfolded on Christmas Eve 1914 that would echo through history as a testament to the fragile humanity buried beneath the weight of industrialized slaughter. British Tommy William Collins, a young baker from Manchester with calloused hands that once kneaded dough for his family's modest shop, huddled in a waterlogged dugout, his heart heavy with the loss of his brother just weeks earlier at Ypres. The relentless barrage had ceased that evening, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by the distant strains of a German band playing Stille Nacht, its haunting melody drifting across no man's land like a siren's call to forgotten joys. Curiosity overriding fear, William peered over the parapet, his rifle trembling in numb fingers, and beheld the impossible. Flickering candlelit Christmas trees adorned with truffles and tinsel atop the enemy parapets, silhouettes of Fritz, once faceless demons, emerging with arms raised, shouting "Merry Christmas" in broken English. Against the barked orders of furious officers, William and his mates clambered out, boots sinking into the barbed wire-laced mire to meet their foes in a handshake that felt like absolution. For a fleeting dawn, the war dissolved into a patchwork carnival of brotherhood. German barbers shaved British chins with straight razors borrowed from kit bags. French wine flowed from canteens alongside English tea, and a makeshift soccer ball, fashioned from a bully beef tin wrapped in rags, bounced amid cheers as officers turned blind eyes from afar. Laughter rang out, raw and disbelieving, as stories were swapped like precious heirlooms. A Bavarian named Hans, a violinist from Munich whose fingers still ached for his Stradivarius, played Auld Lang Syne on a battered harmonica, drawing tears from hardened Scots who joined in chorus, their voices cracking with the ache of homes they might never see. William, sketching faces in the frost with a stubby pencil, captured Hans' profile, a memento of this stolen peace, whispering to himself that perhaps, the general's maps and mandates couldn't erase the shared spark of soul in every soldier's eyes. Yet, as the sun climbed, reality's shadow lengthened. The truce's architects knew the armistice was ephemeral, a borrowed breath before the machine gun's cough resumed. That night, as William returned to his trench clutching a German pipe carved with a heart, he buried it deep in the earth, vowing silently to unearth it one day in a world rebuilt from such fragile truces. This vignette from the Great War's bloodiest theater reminds us that even in the abyss of total war, where empires crumbled and millions fell like autumn leaves, the human spirit could forge bridges from barbed wire, illuminating the profound truth that peace isn't won by bullets alone, but by the quiet courage to see the man behind the uniform. In the annals of history, the Christmas Truce stands not as a footnote of folly, but as a luminous parable of what war is steel and what we reclaim in rebellion against them. Moments of connection that outlast the empires they defied, urging us, even now, over a century later, to listen for those distant songs in our own divided times and choose the hand extended over the one that pulls the trigger.
Under the shadowed eaves of Vichy France during World War II's darkest hours, where Gestapo boots echoed like thunderclaps through cobblestone streets and betrayal lurked in every cafe whisper, Nancy Wake emerged as a whirlwind of unyielding fury. Her codenamed the White Mouse, slipping through the Führer's iron grip like smoke through fingers, embodying the fierce, unbreakable will of a woman who turned occupation into insurrection. Born in 1912 to a New Zealand family adrift in Sydney's sun-baked sprawl, Nancy had chased adventure across continents, her journalist's pen sharpening her hatred for fascism after witnessing Hitler's beer hall zealots in Vienna, where she saw a Jewish family dragged away, their cries etching scars deeper than any bullet could. By 1940, married to a French industrialist named Henri Fiocca, she funneled her inheritance into the French resistance, her blonde curls and disarming smile a perfect camouflage as she bicycled 300 miles through checkpoints, ferrying Allied airmen evading capture, her saddlebags bulging with forged papers and grenades disguised as baguettes. The Gestapo, obsessed with her elusiveness, placed a 5 million franc bounty on her head, higher than on any other partisan, earning her the moniker from a frustrated Abwehr officer who snarled, "She slips through our traps like a white mouse." One rain-lashed night in 1943, as SS patrols combed the Auvergne Hills, Nancy orchestrated Operation Minerve, smuggling 30 downed RAF pilots across the Pyrenees, herding them like wayward sheep through blizzard-swept passes, her own frostbitten feet leaving bloody prints she masked with defiant laughter to keep their spirits from fracturing. Betrayal struck like a dagger when a trusted courier cracked under torture, forcing Nancy to flee to England via Spain, enduring a brutal beating from Spanish guards that left her ribs cracked, but her resolve molten. Parachuting back into France on D-Day -2 months as a special operations executive agent, she trained Maquis saboteurs with a ferocity that belied her porcelain features, her voice a whip cracking orders, "Fight like devils or die like fools." In the Vercors uprising's chaos, she machine-gunned a German sentry post single-handedly to cover her team's retreat, bullets whizzing past her ears as she reloaded with hands slick from the blood of a comrade she just cradled in his final gurgling breath, whispering French lullabies to ease his passing. Henri's arrest and execution haunted her like a ghost. Tortured for her whereabouts, he spat defiance to his last, buying her precious hours with his silence. But it forged her into avenging steel, leading ambushes that severed rail lines and detonated ammo dumps, her laughter a taunt amid the explosions. As Allied tanks rumbled toward Paris in August 1944, Nancy strode into the Ritz, commandeering the bar for her fighters, toasting liberation with champagne looted from Nazi cellars, her eyes gleaming with the vindication of survival. Post-war, she shunned the spotlight, raising funds for veterans in her Monte Carlo villa. But her story, a tapestry of audacity woven from grief and grit, whispers eternally of the women who didn't just endure the war's maw, but bit back, teeth bared. Nancy Wake's odyssey, from society butterfly to saboteur legend, illuminates the war's underbelly, not just the thunder of blitzkriegs, but the quiet revolutions of the heart, where one woman's refusal to yield became a beacon for the oppressed, proving that true power blooms in the shadows, fierce and unquenchable, a legacy that dances on the edge of history's blade, challenging us to find our own white mouse within when tyranny knocks.
In the mist-shrouded forests of World War II's European theater, where the Wehrmacht's panzers prowled like spectral wolves and every rustle could spell doom, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, known to whispers as the Ghost Army, wove illusions from inflatable rubber and sonic sorcery, their audacious deceptions saving countless lives and turning the tide of battles with nothing but artifice and artistry, a poignant saga of creativity's quiet heroism amid mechanized madness. Assembled in 1944 from Manhattan's bohemian underbelly, painters, sculptors, actors, and sound engineers plucked from Broadway stages and gallery lofts, the unit's 1,100 men, led by the silver-haired Colonel Harry L. Reeder, embodied the Allies' desperate ingenuity. Their motto, "May the best illusion win," a wry nod to the absurdity of fooling Führer-fueled fanatics with props that could deflate under a bayonet's prick. Private Elliot Williams, a lanky Jewish abstract artist from Brooklyn whose canvases once evoked the jazz-age pulse of Harlem, found himself in the Rhine Valley's gloom, inflating decoy tanks from canvas and bicycle pumps, each rubber Sherman a grotesque caricature at 20 feet tall, painted with meticulous shadows to mimic steel behemoths under moonlight, his brushstrokes trembling not from cold, but from the memory of his father's delicatessen shuttered by Kristall Knox flames. Their symphony of subterfuge peaked during Operation Viersen in March 1945. As General Patton's real armored divisions massed for the assault on the Ruhr, the Ghosts deployed 500 fake vehicles along a 10-mile front, blaring pre-recorded cacophonies of troop movements, clanking treads, shouted orders, and faux artillery barrages from giant speakers hidden in haystacks, the audio wizardry of sound designer Ralph Ingersoll layering echoes to suggest an army of 30,000 where only phantoms stood.
Elliot, manning a spotlight rig to a jeep, flashed Morse code flares mimicking command signals, his heart pounding as Luftwaffe spotters buzzed overhead, their engines a dirge that evoked the Blitz's wail over London, where he'd lost an aunt to rubble and regret. One tense dawn, a German patrol ventured too close, their Feldwebel's voice barking queries in guttural Deutsch. Elliot, throat dry as chalk, ad-libbed a radio chatter in fractured accents, buying time until a staged tank malfunction, courtesy of a punctured inflatable, sent the scouts scampering back with tales of mechanical mishaps, unwittingly dooming their own reinforcements to Allied crosshairs. The ruse worked flawlessly, diverting 10,000 Nazi troops and 100 panzers, paving the war's endgame with strokes of genius rather than blood. Yet the Ghosts' valor was classified for 50 years, their exploits buried like the decoys they deployed. Elliot returned stateside a changed man, his post-war abstracts now laced with olive-drab ghosts and rubber ghosts, each canvas a eulogy to the friends who didn't come home, like Billy Kane, felled by a stray shell during a Normandy feint, his last words a quip about the show's final curtain. This hidden chapter of the war's tapestry reveals the profound poetry in deception, not the deceit of spies, but the redemptive craft of creators who painted victory from peril, their legacy a haunting reminder that in the forge of conflict, imagination is the ultimate weapon, forging paths where none existed and etching into eternity the truth that wars are won not only in the clash of arms, but in the alchemy of minds that dare to dream beyond the darkness, inspiring us to wield our own illusions against the shadows that still haunt our world.
Within the gilded cages of Russia's Winter Palace and the blood-soaked cellars of Yekaterinburg during World War I's Eastern Maelstrom, where Bolshevik bayonets gleamed with revolutionary zeal and the Romanov dynasty crumbled like autumn frost under the Tsar's faltering scepter, young Alexei Nikolaevich Romanov, the hemophiliac heir whose frail form bore the weight of an empire's unraveling, personified the war's cruel caprice, his poignant tale a requiem for innocence lost in the crossfire of ideology and imperial folly. Born in 1904 to Tsar Nicholas II and Alexandra, whose Teutonic bloodline carried the royal disease like a cursed heirloom, Alexei's every bruise a potential death sentence. The boy navigated childhood's minefield with a porcelain fragility that mirrored the monarchy's own brittleness, his nights racked by hemorrhages that turned playrooms into chambers of dread, soothed only by the shadowy ministrations of Grigory Rasputin, the mad monk whose hypnotic prayers seemed to stem the bleeding, weaving mysticism into the court's fraying fabric. As the Great War erupted in 1914, Nicholas's disastrous command at the front left Alexandra and Alexei exposed in Petrograd's intrigue-laden salons, where whispers of German spies swirled around the Empress's accented pleas, fueling the bread riots that snowballed into revolution. Alexei, wheeled in his invalid chair to military hospitals, distributed medals with tiny hands that trembled from pain. His wide blue eyes, echoing his father's myopic gaze, absorbing the soldiers' tales of trench horrors, igniting in him a boy's fierce patriotism that belied his body's betrayal. By 1917, as Kerensky's provisional government teetered and Lenin's agitators fanned the flames, the family was whisked to Tobolsk's exile, a facsimile of opulence, where Alexei, now 13, carved toy soldiers from wood during remission, dreaming aloud of rejoining the fray as a real officer, his laughter a rare melody amid the guards' growing insolence. The Bolsheviks' iron fist tightened in 1918, transporting them to the Ipatiev house, the house of special purpose, where isolation gnawed like winter's bite. Alexei, weakened by a fall that reignited his bleed, lay bandaged for months, his mother's vigil a tapestry of whispered Bible verses and suppressed sobs as rumors of White Army advances stirred desperate hopes. On July 16th, amid the Ural Mountains' indifferent pines, the family's executioners arrived at midnight, the basement air thick with candle smoke and dread. Alexei, carried in on a stretcher by his tutor Pierre Gilliard, faced the squad's rifles with a composure that shattered his killer's resolve. One guard later confessed the boy's angelic face haunted his dreams, his final words a soft query to his father. "Are they going to shoot us, Papa?" as the volley thundered, riddling the air with lead and legacy's end. The Romanovs' remains, desecrated and dispersed, lay hidden for decades, but Alexei's story resurfaced in 1991 with DNA's cold confirmation, his tiny vertebrae unearthed like relics of a bygone faith, evoking global tears for the child who embodied autocracy's agony. This intimate chronicle from the war's revolutionary periphery underscores the conflict's insidious reach. Not merely borders redrawn in ink and blood, but the snuffing of lights like Alexei's, whose brief flicker challenged the era's titans to reckon with vulnerability's valor. In the echoes of Yekaterinburg's cellar, we hear the war's unspoken dirge, a call to safeguard the fragile flames of youth against history's tempests, reminding us that empires fall not with a bang of cannons, but with the whimper of a boy's unanswered question. A haunting imperative to build worlds where such innocents endure, their spirits undimmed by the shadows of strife that once claimed them.
High above the anvil of Anzio's 1944 beachhead in World War II's Italian campaign, where Luftwaffe Messerschmitts slashed through Allied formations like falcons on the hunt, and the Mediterranean sun baked the scars of amphibious slaughter, the Tuskegee Airmen of the 332nd Fighter Group soared as ebony eagles in olive-drab cockpits, their unerring escort mission shattering the chains of prejudice and rewriting the war's narrative with thunderous grace. A riveting epic of resilience that fused air of ballet with the raw pulse of racial reckoning. Trained in Alabama's segregated skies at Moton Field, where Jim Crow's grip throttled dreams amid sweltering humidity and doubting sneers, these 992 black aviators, pioneered by Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., whose iron will forged steel from skepticism, endured not just G-forces, but the gravity of a nation's hypocrisy, their P-51 Mustangs emblazoned with red-tailed defiance as badges of unbreakable brotherhood. Lieutenant Charles Buster Hall, a lanky Ohio farm boy whose father's sharecropping hands had taught him the Earth's quiet fury, stepped into his cockpit on January 27, 1944, heart hammering like a war drum as his squadron screamed toward the Anzio anvil, where 36,000 GIs clung to a precarious lodgment under relentless Axis barrages. Spotting a gaggle of F-190s diving on beleaguered B-25 bombers, Buster peeled off in a corkscrew dive, his .50 caliber Brownings chattering fury as he claimed the 99th Pursuit Squadron's first enemy kill. Twisting through flak bursts that peppered his canopy like black rain, the adrenaline, a bitter elixir laced with the memory of stateside jeers that branded him unfit for flight. Over 200 missions, the Red Tails flew without a single bomber lost to fighters in 1,578 escorts, a record that humbled white-winged outfits. Yet each triumph was tempered by home front gall, like the court-martial of fellow ace Clarence Lucky Lester, for a friendly fire myth spun from bias. His acquittal, a Pyrrhic victory that fueled their vow. No excuses, no apologies, just excellence. In the cockpit's crucible, bonds forged in shared peril transcended color. Buster's wingman, a white navigator from Brooklyn, traded jazz riffs on harmonicas during lulls, their laughter a bulwark against the war's maw. But the sting of segregation lingered, as Tuskegee flyers were barred from officers' clubs, sipping coffee in Quonset huts while victories mounted. As VE Daddy dawned, Buster taxied his battle-scarred Mustang to a halt, its tail fin a mosaic of swastika kill tallies, and wept not for glory but for the brothers left in Italian soil, like Leroy Curtis, vaporized mid-dogfight, whose last transmission was a defiant whoop, got one more for the tally. Post-war, their legacy ignited the desegregation fires, with Truman's 1948 executive order echoing their exploits. Yet the airmen's true victory was etched in the skies, proving that courage knows no hue, their wings a manifesto against the era's divides.
This airborne odyssey from the war's Mediterranean mosaic captures the conflict's dual heart, mechanized mayhem intertwined with moral metamorphosis, where 66 Tuskegee aces tallied 112 kills, not just Luftwaffe foes, but the dragons of doubt, their story a soaring siren call across time. In the face of tempests, terrestrial and aerial, Unity's updraft lifts us higher, urging every generation to claim their red tails and chase horizons unbound by yesterday's shadows, transforming history's gales into gales of progress that carry us toward dawns where all skies are shared.
If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more tales of history's hidden heroes. Let's keep their light alive together.